order at 7:35 p.m. and please ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Pleasure of the committee. Motion by Mr. Mutter, second by Mrs. Teal. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0 with Mr. Duffy is absent this evening. Next item is the student government report, student activities. Good evening.
Good evening, my name is Cameron Rosa.
And I'm Kate Corno. This past month, we had the food drive, and during our April food drive, we collected cans from every advisory. We also had the Staff Appreciation Week, and we'd like to thank all of our teachers and our staff for how much they care about our education. We also had Spring Fling, which was an amazing time, and we want to thank all of the wonderful chaperones for giving their time to help us have a great time.
The upcoming events is Senior Prom. It's the last dance for the senior class. It'll be held at Knesset Country Club. We also will be having Senior Week, which is a week dedicated to the seniors having fun during last period. Government elections will be held for class president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer on May 23rd during advisory. And lastly, we have graduation, which will be held at PPAC in Providence at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, approval of minutes, regular meeting 5/8/2014 and executive session 5/8/2014. Pleasure of the committee. Motion by Mr. Fiorillo, second by Mr. DeMonica. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Next item is report of executive session meeting on 5/20/2014. We did not have an executive session meeting, and we will not need to seal the minutes for that. Next item is the superintendent's report, recognition of achievements. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. As you can see, we have several parents, teachers, and students here this evening. It's that time of year where we take the time to acknowledge all the fine work that has happened over the course of the school year. So we have a number of people to recognize this evening, and the first school that will be representing all the fine work that's been done at North Cumberland Middle School is Mrs. Coughlin.
Good evening. I would like to thank the school committee for allowing me to present to you students who have worked extremely hard over the course of their years at NCMS, and as a result have recently received much deserved recognition. I'd like to begin with two students who were chosen by the entire North Cumberland Middle School faculty and to represent our school. To represent our school as the 2014 Rhode Island Middle Level Educators Association Scholar Leaders. And they were honored on May 13th at a banquet at the West Valley Inn. The students were chosen as the male and female 8th grader who best exemplified the following characteristics: excellent attitude toward learning, provide service to the classmates and to the school, is a positive role model for peers, and takes responsibility for their behavior and their learning. I'm proud to present our 2014 Scholar Leaders. Our first, Christian Valley. And Hannah Ballou. Now, I'd just like to provide a special note about Hannah. Hannah is serving 1 year and 1 year only at North Cumberland Middle School. She came to us as an 8th grader. I was proud to have her as a McCourt Middle School student during 6th and 7th grade. And I want to emphasize that the entire staff voted for this Scholar Leader. So the fact that Hannah received it after being in our school for only 1 year certainly exemplifies and impressed all of us, and the hard work that and the positive attitude she's brought to the school in the short time that she's been here. Congratulations, Hannah. 29 students were inducted into the National Junior Honor Society on Wednesday, April 30th. In order to receive this honor, students had to meet a specific academic criteria, as well as provide the Faculty Council with evidence of leadership and service to the community. Students who were chosen as members must have a cumulative average of 92 in their 4 core subjects for both the first and second trimesters of the school year. The student cannot have a grade lower than 85 in any of the 4 core subjects. Members are also required to complete 2 hours of community service prior to acceptance and write a 1-page essay stating why they want to be part of the National Junior Honor Society. The following students we were proud to induct as members of the North Cumberland Middle School National Junior Honor Society. Paul Hugo Arkin. Anna Ballou. Paul Barry. Jocelyn Boddington. Sarah Brochu. Luke Coleman. Emily Duffy. Stephanie Erickson. Zachary Fogel. Janie Gonzalez. Rachel Brady. Natalie Hartsfield. Sarah Keogh. Derek Knobloch. Colin Langdon. Griffin Lamoureux. Rebecca Levy. Ashita Mather. Kathleen Meyer. Erin McIntyre. I do know Samantha Murphy is here. Jake Ray. Nick Rivella. Bethany St. Jean. Caroline Squidera. Merrick Tian. Christian Valley. Madeline Voda. And Megan Weiner. I'd also like to recognize and have come forward our 2 faculty advisors for the National Junior Honor Society, Ms. Kayla Emery and Mrs. Lori Lang. And finally, not done yet, Le Grand Concours, the National French exam, sponsored by the American Association of Teachers of French, was administered nationally during the month of March. French students from across the United States competed at various levels, from level 01 through level 5. In Rhode Island, nearly 1,100 public and private middle schools and high school students vied for awards at both the state and national levels. 4 North Cumberland Middle School students Grade 8 French students who competed at level 01A and level 1C have placed among the top 10 in the state of Rhode Island. These students were recognized at a formal award ceremony this past Tuesday at East Greenwich High School. I'm proud to present the following winners of this French examination. In level 01C, we have Paul Hugo Arcan, who placed 5th in Rhode Island, 11th nationally. In level 01A, I have Caroline Squizero, who placed 5th in Rhode Island, 15th place nationally. Rachel Breitenbach, who placed 9th in Rhode Island, 19th place nationally. Jonathan Rowe, who placed 10th in Rhode Island, 20th place nationally. I'd like to recognize who was not able to make it tonight, our faculty advisor, Mrs. Madame Shaw, Sandra Shaw, who spent many, many hours helping the students prepare for the National French exam after school. I'm also extremely proud to announce a Cumberland High School student who is near and dear to my heart, one of my former students, who placed an amazing 1st in Rhode Island, 6th place nationally, Mr. Chase Boney. Thank you very much.
The next set of awards will be given by Dr. Masterson.
Good evening. Today we'll be recognizing students who entered into the Rhode Island Youth Art Month at Fidelity Investments for the Rhode Island Art Educators Association. I'd like to thank first Mrs. Dooley, who was the former art teacher at McCourt Middle School, who got a lot of this started, and Ms. Lori Santopietro, who is our current art teacher, who continued it and has really done a great job in trying to promote the arts, as Mrs. Dooley did previously. And our students have joined the art club, and it's one of the most exciting places to be on Thursday this afternoon. So we'll be recognizing all those students tonight. From grade 6, Jillian Cook. I have quite a few names, so we'll just wait on the applause till the end. Zach Kingston, Trista Rock, Emma McKinnon, Alicia Oliveri, Sarah Farrenholtz, Connor Elliott, and Maya Santos from grade 6. From grade 7, we have Laura Dion, Jaylee Coates, Jared Stranke, Haley Walton, Mason Matos, and Kaylee Johnson. From grade 8, we have Sam Buskey, Caleb Paquette, Kaylee Vanaco, Brian Samansky, Alexandria Santos, Jasmine Reynolds, Eloisa Tabaldi, Anna O'Callahan, Nicole Gonzalez, Louise Mooring, Madison Saraiva, Dana Jack Boning, Jimmy Zhang, Keaton Bergeron, Vanessa Bousselay. McCourt Middle School will be hosting their induction ceremony for National Junior Honor Society next week on the 28th, and we will be recognizing them as well as our Rhode Island middle level educators at a future school committee meeting. Thank you.
you, Dr. Masterson. The next award that we will be giving this evening is the 2014 District Teacher of the Year Award. And let me just explain a little bit about this process. This is an activity that we go through every year as a district. We ask for nominations, and this year there were several nominations, and it's always difficult to make a decision like this because we have so many talented teachers. And all of the applications are sent to Dr. Thornton. A committee of teachers and administrators convene to review all of the applications, and they reach consensus on the teacher that they feel is deserving of this award. So, it is with great pleasure that I share with you this year's recipient of the 2014 District Teacher of the Year. It is presented to Anna Parenteau, teacher at BF Norton. This plaque says, Cumberland School Department 2014 District Teacher of the Year, presented to Anna Parenteau in recognition of your inspirational actions and excellence in education support. So congratulations to you. So you get this to bring home and hang on your wall. And there's also this plaque which hangs in the main foyer of this building for everyone to see. The multiple and talented teachers of the year that we've had since 2011. So congratulations again. Very well.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Antonio Damana, and I am the principal at BF Norton Elementary School. As I thought about what I wanted to say this evening on behalf of Anna, I was sitting at my desk staring at my computer screen, and on my monitor I have a little excerpt of our school mission that we developed earlier this year. And on that mission statement, I keep it there because it helps me keep focus, and for those of you that know anything about BF, we have to stay focused at BF Norton. So our mission stated that we recognize and we respect the dignity and diversity of all students focused on performance and academic achievement. This evening we celebrate and honor the accomplishment of someone who embodies those principles. Anna is a perfect representative of what it means to be an elite practitioner at a time when education's demands have never been greater. Ms. Parenteau, as a former ELL student, you possess a passion and gift of perseverance, something we seek to instill in all of our students, not only at BF, but throughout our district. I want to thank you for your outstanding service to our students. We are humbled by being represented by you, and congratulations to this year's Teacher of the Year, Anna.
We just have a few more, everybody. It's a big night. The next award that we'll be giving out this evening is to Frank Geiselman. I'm sure many of you know Mr. Geiselman. He was recently inducted into the Rhode Island Interscholastic League Hall of Fame. I believe that event is held at the Quidnesset Country Club. I have had the opportunity to attend a few of these functions, and they are spectacular. It really is quite an honor. So Frank was given this award for the following reasons. A football and basketball star while at Tolman High, Frank had a successful 26-year coaching career at Cumberland High School, where he piloted football, girls volleyball, and girls basketball. His 1980-81 girls hoop team won the state title. He has been the athletic director at Cumberland since 2005, and it's my pleasure to recognize Frank Geiselman for his induction into the Rhode Island Interscholastic League Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Frank. I think this last award is just as special as all of the others that we've given this evening. And it involves a fundraiser that the district was involved in called Pennies for Patients. Did you all hear about that? Let me just tell you a little bit about Pennies for Patients. This is a fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and the goal is to have students in schools collect spare change. All of the change that is collected, it's pennies, it's nickels, dimes, quarters, over a 3-week period is collected to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And to me, this is a wonderful indication of the commitment that this community has made to a wonderful organization. This is a competition that they do statewide. And just to give you an idea, I think there are something like 365 elementary, middle, and high schools in the state of Rhode Island. 4 of Cumberland schools were in the top 10 in the fundraising activities. Our schools generated, I think, $24,000 to give to the lymphoma, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So there were 4 schools, as I mentioned, that were in the top 10. And I actually have certificates here, and I'd like the principals to come up and take the certificates, and I think they actually have some people here who they have recognized for coordinating this effort. Cumberland High School raised $6,193.66. Community Elementary School raised $5,232.28. Ashton Elementary School raised $3,727.93. And Garvin Elementary School raised $3,285.03. That's pretty impressive. So thank you all, and I have some certificates here, and I believe there are representatives from each school here to accept the certificates. So if I could have Mrs. Basignani, Mrs. Giroux, Mr. Tonrero, and Mrs. Carbona come up, please, and accept these certificates.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank the school committee for having us here tonight and giving us the opportunity to recognize the Pennies for Patients fundraiser at our schools. In particular, at Ashton School, I would like to recognize Mrs. Sutherland for her efforts in promoting the campaign. I think that is her enthusiasm and her passion for this type of fundraiser that really has made us successful and got us to where we are. And she has a way of doing it that spreads throughout the school. She visits every classroom in the school and talks to all the children about it. She makes notices to go home. We have a representative from the Leukemia Society come to the school, and they speak to the children at lunchtime. And there's all kinds of events that go on for those 3 weeks to promote really this wonderful effort, and I credit that in our success to Mrs. Sutherland for all of her work in helping this. And as she says all the time, Ashton School is the smallest but the mightiest, and it's all because of her and the way she promotes this effort, this fundraiser. So I would like to thank her, and also Deb, I believe, is here. And I would like to recognize Deb. Thank you so much for helping us promote this fundraiser. It is close to our hearts. Many of us have been touched by family members or people that we know that unfortunately have this disease, and we really are very lucky to be part of the fundraiser and contribute. Thank you.
To recognize my coordinator of our efforts at our school. She's usually here tonight, but I don't see her, Mrs. Carol Kirkpatrick. So I want to thank her for all of her efforts and our success over 2 years, and we're looking forward to our ice cream sandwich party.
I'd like to thank the committee for recognizing the generosity of the students and the families of Garvin School, but especially I'd like to recognize Mrs. Kristen Lane, stand up, who is the coordinator of this event, and she makes this a fun-filled and a very meaningful way for our students to help those who are less fortunate. So thank you very much, Kristen, for all your efforts over the past several years, and thank you, committee.
We want to thank our coordinators, Kate Ward and Audrey Berthium. They're our student government coordinators. They, besides Pennies for Patients and all our work for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society this year, so many other fundraisers that they do, Toys for Tots, Turkey Baskets, the Senior Center. So they really do an amazing job for the community. And finally, Bob asked me to introduce from Pennies for Patients, Deb Watterson, and from the Rhode Island Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Mr. Bob Van Winter.
Sorry, this is the way I'm used to doing it when I do assemblies, when we do assemblies at the school. So thank you so much for having us here. This is wonderful for us because your schools have been participating in Pennies for Patients. I've been managing Pennies in Rhode Island for the past 15 years. And Cumberland has been terrific because there are so many of the schools that as soon as I call and say, we're running Pennies again, are you interested? Right away, coordinators sign up and say, yes, we're in. And I so appreciate that because I know that this area of Rhode Island has been touched by a lot of blood cancer. So this means so much to the patient families that we work with, that your student families and your staff come together to help us raise money, because our mission is to find a cure for leukemia, lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease, and myeloma. And I just love that I get a minute to come and brag, not only about your students, but about the staff who put this together, because in the midst of everything else that teachers are doing in school, and all those challenges, they still take time to get those kids together, to educate them about why we're asking them to bring in their pennies and dimes and nickels, to inspire them, to motivate them, and to count all those pennies. And I really appreciate that you all take a little time to do that. And let's see, how can I do this? The first thing I want to say is that Cumberland High School this year, I don't know if you all knew this, but they had a challenge that they were going to raise $25,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We've never had a school in our district that was willing to go ahead and try and do that. There are some schools across the country that do that, and I'm so proud that this year you will be listed amongst them. They raised $11,200 for our Light the Night Walk, which is just an easy 2-mile stroll. And then they raised $6,100 for Pennies for Patients, where the kids bring in their spare change for a few weeks. Then they went ahead and they did a 5K run, which I think you raised another, not even sure of the number yet, 31 at least. Yeah, okay. So they're up to 20,000, and last time I was talking with them, they were still going to keep working on it. So you've raised over $20,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and you really, really have made a difference. I think, like your motto says, the power of one together. So congratulations to that. And this is Mr. Van Winters, who is our board chair, and I know he wants to talk to you for a second. But I also have flowers for all of you. Cumberland High School, because they came in second, so Caitlin and Audrey, I have some flowers for you. And you know what? I want to tell you too, That means that Cumberland High School has, since as long as I've been doing this, with 1999, but our records go back to 2002, they've raised over $36,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So Miss Audrey and Miss Kate, this is for you. Elementary school actually came in number 5 of our 10 overall fundraising schools at $5,232. So Ms. Kirkpatrick and Principal Giroux, flowers for you. Community Elementary School has raised over $54,000 since 2000, and which is amazing. And Ashton Elementary, Ms. Sutherland, their school came in number 6 at $37.27, and your school, under your direction really, has raised $29,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And then Garvin Elementary came in number 10, $3,285. So that's $11,000 over 5 years on and off that your school has done this. Ms. Kristen and Ms. Beck. I did have a little special something because Miss Allison, here Miss Allison, she and I think have worked out of all of these coordinators and schools have worked together the longest, and I've gone to Allison's school and so on. But Allison actually came in not only for Ashton School in the top 10 overall, but also the per student average, which is just amazing. So you actually made both of our categories. So I have a little special something for you. This is an Alex Anani bracelet, which is about inspiration, which I know you are a terrific inspiration to all of your students and other staff at the school. So I want to present this to you. And Allison does this. She knows from her heart for a very, very personal reason why she does this. So I just thank all of you. Amazing teachers, student council that I worked with, parents, student faculty. They're just incredible to work with. I thank you so much. And Mr. Van Winter as well.
Yeah, that was fabulous. I'm standing up here bursting with pride as I look around this room. My family and I have been Cumberland residents for almost 30 years now. My kids have grown up here. They were born here and grew up here. And to see so many familiar faces. Some of you know that back in 1997, I was diagnosed with leukemia. A couple of days after I was diagnosed, my doctors went to my wife and said, you need to prepare for the worst. Chances are your husband will never walk out of Rhode Island Hospital. I got really lucky. I beat the odds. But I got lucky because people that have gone before us here tonight, people that have gone to community school and Ashton School and the Cumberland High School have done pennies for patients for years. The money that went to that research quite literally saved my life. So I stand here bursting with pride, knowing what this community can do and what they have done. And I just want to thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
I just think it's important to acknowledge all the family and friends that are here this evening too to support the students in the district. Thank you so much, and again, we can't say enough how much we appreciate the support of our staff, because they do it not because they earn money, they do it because they want to volunteer their time to help our students and help these very worthwhile causes. So thank you all very much.
So we're going to take a few minutes in the meeting. In the interest of time, we're going to move out of new business. Item E, discussion and/or vote to approve the overnight student field trip, CHS Disney grad night, Orlando, Florida. Move that item up to the chairperson's report. Ladies.
Hi, I'm Kate Ward. I'm one of the grad night coordinators. And I'm Audrey Berthew. So we actually just went on our grad night trip in April. It was awesome. The kids really had a great time. It's a really nice trip. Basically, it is a student-centered trip that Universal Studios plans each year. And what they do is they will close down Universal Studios for only graduating seniors. We try and keep our trip a little bit more structured where there are requirements for the students to actually go on the trip. Some of those requirements include there can't be any suspensions or serious conduct throughout the school year. The students cannot fail any classes. So we look at their semester grades as well as their third quarter grades. If at any time they fall below a C-, they are not eligible for the trip anymore. We also make sure that the students are in school. So they cannot have more than 9 tardies throughout the school year, so from the beginning of the year till the day that we leave. Sorry, absences. So 9 absences, and we count every 3 tardies as an absence. So the students are strict on that. We check multiple times throughout the year to make sure that they are staying strong to their contract. The trip itself has been running since 1989, so we have been doing this for quite a few years, and both of us, actually, when we were students, went on the trip. So we've seen it from a couple different perspectives. This was my second year going as a chaperone. So we've taken it over from Sue Paquette. This year we are looking to go the Thursday and Friday before vacation. This year the actual grad day experience is on a Friday instead of the Saturday. So we wanted to make sure that we got there. We also had some interesting feedback from some teachers that said that they would like us to try and go so that the tail end of the trip was in vacation rather than the beginning, so that the kids can recover and not be gloomy in class. So we're trying it this year. If it doesn't work, then we'll go back to our normal time. We'll see what happens. So we're just trying it to see if it is better for the kids, if it's better for the teachers, and see what happens from there.
Mr. Salvatore?
Thank you. So it's called CHS Disney Grad Night, but it's not actually at Disney? Is that...
Disney did it. Disney gave it over to Universal Studios. So what we do is we have a hopper pass that will allow the students to go for 3 days to the different Disney parks. But the actual bash itself is at Universal Studios, which is nice because the kids get an extra park that wasn't an option before.
So moving it to the latter part of the week, it's still the same segmented time frame?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's still the same amount of time, yes.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions? Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. DeMonica, second by Mr. Salvatore. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is Chairperson's Report, Funding Formula, and the BEP. We did have the opportunity, Vice Chair Mutter and I, to meet with Commissioner Gist and their legal counsel to discuss the BEP. We'll continue with our exploration around that. And we do have an agenda item around a BEP audit, which was in finance this evening, I believe, for discussion purposes. Next item is reports of standing committees, payment of bills. Mr. Mutter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no payment of bills this evening. Would you like me to segue into the fiscal management update?
That'd be ideal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fiscal management did meet this evening at 7 o'clock. We did discuss a couple items that are further on down tonight's docket, which is the possible scheduling of a BEP audit and the proposed charter school athletic tuition, as well as a resolution SCR 2014-08, which is an accelerated funding formula we'll be offering to the full committee. A motion to approve that further on down the docket. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mutter. Mrs. Teal?
We didn't meet this past week, but we are meeting Tuesday, but it's at 5 o'clock.
Really trying to shake it up.
It's because I'm going to have like 30 hours.
Good luck. Next item is Achievement and Communication Subcommittee update. We have not met and will in June. We will be discussing policy, amended policy. Mrs. Teal?
This is a second reading. There have been no changes made to the policy since the first reading.
And this is the student suspension policy,
J-7, it used to be formerly known as JGD.
Yes. Thank you. Does anyone in the public wish to speak on that policy? Hearing none, we will close the hearing. Next item, comments from the public. Would anyone wish to approach the committee? Gentlemen? No, you're good? You hung around long enough to give you the chance to speak. Excellent. Next item, school security update. Dr. Thornton?
Hi, good evening. I have some pictures to show this evening with Mr. Alexander. We're making great progress on the interior doors. This past week, second shift, we started a lot of installation of doors at Community. I can tell you it's going really well, and in some cases, the vendor is being very creative in how to fit some of our unique openings. So, Mr. Alexander, want to take us through some pictures, please?
Yeah, you've seen pictures of the community. They were able to actually turn it over. I think they did 26 doors, around 80 lock sets and closer installation, and they did it in just about a week. So it's a quick turnaround in community. So now we're moving into the court. They began today where they're starting on the lock sets and the closers, all the hardware installation, and then they'll begin to the doors on that. They have about 8 doors to do there and around 70 lock sets and closers there as well. Once the court's finished, then we'll move on to BF Norton and the other schools following that one. The other thing that we've been noticing too as we're going through the interior of the doors is a few of the exterior doors that were in some bad conditions. We've been pushing those forward to try to get those done, at an expedited pace. Also with the card access and stuff in the district that's wrapping up, we're tying those into the fire alarm panels. Once all that's integrated, then we can get those things going and have that all live soon as well.
Mr. Salvatore?
What's the total completion of all the doors within the district? What's the estimated date?
Total completion, we're not really sure. It's tough to say. We're looking definitely by the end of summer.
I'll push you in the summer. I am on them weekly, and we're pushing hard to get this all done. Also with this, we're getting the swipes done, if you will. So right now, our district has approximately 300 different kinds of keys. That's going down to a number of around 30. And we're more about swipes in the future, so we can swipe in and swipe out for all aspects of our work. So that's all part of the conversation also. And I would add the keys that we are going to have in the future are the keys that cannot be copied. So we're really changing over the entire system.
Yeah, and some of the delays been in some of the smaller details, just changing different types of lock styles and lock sets, whether it's storeroom functions or push button turn sets. So it's all in those minor details that are kind of throw a little kinks into it.
Madam Chair. 2 questions. What makes the key not copy? How come you not copy? And then second, will policy be changing for the people that do have the 30 keys?
As it explained to me, you can't buy the blank. They're not for purchase. And if you get a blank, to get a key made, you must get a signature from myself and someone else in the district to get a key made. So normally, people would run to a hardware store to get a blank and get it made. It would say don't duplicate, and they do it anyway sometimes. That's not possible anymore with these keys. Can't be done.
By putting in the key card access for the exterior doors, we're eliminating all exterior keys that we can't have. There'll be a master key for the exteriors, but the only people who will be with us the superintendent, and myself, So those will be very limited. So if you do use a fob, you can just shut it off.
Mr. Fiorillo?
Wayne, I know that like places like Home Depot and Lowe's now have the automated machines where you just stick the key in. Will those keys still be able to be made that way?
No, the whole key system is all it's a bonded patent system, so that type of key you can't even buy it anywhere.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the swipe. So the swipe can enable or disable an employee? Is that how that works?
Typically, a teacher might have access from, say, 8 to 5 o'clock, Monday to Friday. Let's say they want to come in on the weekend for a project. We can certainly change their access to Saturday, but you have times that are in, times that you're not in.
And it would also record entry and exit.
It does.
Can you just talk a little bit about the funding around this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, the funding goes back to, I want to say, this winter we had the competition with the town of the Summer 1000 to fund the whole initiative. And right now, as we're going through it, it's moving right along. But it's the funding with the help of the town.
So the town is funding this?
I believe, if memory serves, the town was helping us with the funding in terms of a master lease.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion and/or vote to approve scheduling of BEP audit. Mr. Potter, you said this was in your subcommittee this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was discussed briefly in subcommittee. There was not any votes taken. There's a feeling to ask Dr. Thorne to develop an RFP to at least procure some bids to get an idea as to what this venture might cost. So obviously, as you discussed briefly, we did meet with RIDE, and the question that we asked quite some time ago is an elusive question, or at least the answer is somewhat elusive. So at least it's my feeling that this venture, depending on the cost and the committee's fatigue level on this issue, would be to see how much it would cost to audit what we would expect Dr. Thorne's list of what would be required to comply with the BEP. So fiscal management would be asking for that if that RFP can be developed and perhaps be ready by the next school committee meeting or in front of fiscal management for that. That's what we'd be looking for.
Mr. Salvatore.
Mr. Hunter, is the town thinking to do an audit to see if we're BEP compliant? Was there any talk about that? You know?
I remember the mayor mentioning something about that. I don't think anything actually happened, but I remember it being mentioned, but not to my knowledge. And I don't think that, I don't recall it. There was a gentleman that did, there was a firm that did an audit in North Kingstown, and I believe the mayor had mentioned speaking to that particular firm, but I've not heard anything since whenever that was, which had to be at least a month ago. Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Mutter? And next item, Mr. Mutter, back with you.
Discussion and vote to approve proposed charter school athletic tuition. There was nothing in front of fiscal management to act on, so we made a motion to table it to the next fiscal management. And I'll make a motion to table it in the full committee. Did I skip something?
Nope.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to table the charter school tuition, and we have a second by Mr. Demotica. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Mr. Mutter.
Madam Chair, this was your, or is your resolution, and fiscal management is recommending passage of SCR 2014-08 accelerated funding formula. We would, with the expectation that you would provide to the full committee some background on such a document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You always do such a nice job, too. You pass the torch over to me, I always kind of shortchange it, but we'll see what we can do. So we have been an underfunded community from the state's perspective since the start of the funding formula, and unfortunately, there has been no acceleration of that formula, and at present, the state share is approximately $2.5 million shy of where it would be if we were fully funded, and we know that we're struggling locally with our share of funding, and at the state level, we're also struggling with that. Often the acceleration formulas talk about providing taxpayer relief, but because we share the greater concern for the district of not having the local share to meet the requirements of the BEP, that is largely how the resolution is worded. So I don't know if any of the committee members have specific questions about the wording in the resolution. No, it really is urging the General Assembly to advance the funding formula so that school districts are made whole based on the state share. So I believe, Mr. Marty, you had said that you are moving passage of that item?
It was unanimously endorsed in fiscal management, and I will move passage of SCR 2014-08.
Thank you, Mr. Munder. Do I have a second? Mr. Salvatore?
Madam Chair,
We need a second, Mr. Salvatore.
I had a quick question, I'm sorry. Is it too
Do
late?
you want a
Did
second
I
for
miss it?
discussion?
Can I second the discussion?
Yes, you may.
Sorry, thank you. Madam Chair, so upon approval of this, we send a letter as a committee to the General Assembly? Is that how I understood it?
That's correct. It gets distributed to all the school committees and the councils statewide as well as to the General Assembly.
Is it possible to send a copy to our direct reps and have them come here, ask them to come here and give us an update as to how this stands within the General Assembly?
We can certainly make that request.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'd like to see that happen. I think it's time to start holding elected officials, aware to the struggle that we're going through and see what we can do to get answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. So we have a motion and a second for SCR 2014-08 accelerated funding formula. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Next item, item E, we completed. Item F is discussion and/or vote to approve the following amended policy, J7JGD, student suspension policy. Mrs. Teal.
Thank you. So this policy has gone for its first reading and second reading, and again, this is a revised student suspension policy. It outlines the process, procedures, notification requirements, and appeals for suspensions for less than 10 days, greater than 10 days, for students with more than 10 cumulative days of suspensions, and for students with IEPs. It brings us into compliance with any applicable regs, and it was approved 3-0 in policy and procedures, so I would move passage for J-7, student suspension policy as amended.
Mrs. Teal moves passage of the student suspension policy. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Salvatore. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you. I'm just going to take a second and go back to the resolution because I think there's some key points that we need to note into the record. Some of this was provided by the School Committee Association, and so I appreciate Mr. Duffy's assistance with this. So I'm going to read it into the record. It should only take me a minute. Article 12, Section 4 of the Constitution says the diffusion of knowledge as well as the virtue among the people being essential to the preservation of rights and liberties. It shall be the duty of the General Assembly to promote public schools and public libraries and to adopt all means which it deem necessary and proper to secure the people the advantages and opportunities of education and public library services. And whereas Article 1, Section 2 of the Rhode Island Constitution states all free governments are instituted for the protection of safety, happiness, and of the people. All laws, therefore, should be made for the good of the whole, and the burdens of the state ought to be fairly distributed among its citizens. Whereas for over 2 decades, Rhode Island lacked a defined funding formula and deprived many students of adequate education and property taxpayer equity. And whereas 2010, the Rhode Island General Assembly addressed the inequities in the education funding by enacting 1672, the Education Equity and Property Tax Relief Act, thus creating the education funding formula. And I hesitated in this when I reread it because it says it addresses the inequities, and I don't think they've quite hit that target yet. It goes on to say, whereas the new education funding formula is on schedule to be phased in by 2018, whereas the Cumberland School Department is being underfunded by $2,869,955 in the current Rhode Island fiscal 14 budget, whereas the local appropriation of the Cumberland School Department does not adequately address the rising cost of non-core expenses, whereas the Cumberland School Department local appropriation is limited to a 4% allocation in spite of the fact that it now represents the budget for 2 school districts. Whereas the legislature recognizes that accelerating the full phase-in of the funding formula by fiscal 2016 would guarantee the promises articulated in Article 1, Section 2, and Article 12, Section 4 of the Rhode Island Constitution. Now therefore be it resolved that, insert name of city or town, Cumberland urges the General Assembly to enact 2014 Senate Bill 2269, 2014 House Bill 7182 that would accelerate the schedule for payment of state education and fully fund the state share of the funding formula. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to every Rhode Island municipality, school committee, state senator, state representative, and governor. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is personnel recommendations. Mrs. Fogel.
Good evening. So I'm going to start. I have 2 retirements for you this evening. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the retirement of Donna Carrero, principal at Joseph J. McLaughlin, I almost forgot, sorry, Cumberland Hill School, effective June 30th, 2014. Ms. Carrero has been with us for 9 years, and she will be missed.
Can we take that separately?
Sure.
If the committee doesn't mind. Pleasure of the committee. Motion to approve the rec. Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Taylor. Mr. Fiorella. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to add? Because I do. So I know in having a brief discussion with some of the principals this evening, they said, and these were the elementary principals, you don't know how hard we work together and how great of a team we are. And we love the companionship and the camaraderie. They went on to say that we are a great team. We really love our district. We really work hard and we work really well together. And I think they were very sad to know that one of their mighty colleagues are leaving, but of course understand the situation. So I just wanted to recognize the principal for her great efforts and know that she will be missed by her school community as well as her colleagues.
She'll be missed by me as well, because she has taught me a great deal about teaching and learning with her vast experience. So it's going to be a loss for Cumberland, but we'll do our best to get the elementary principals together to bring someone else on the team who maybe doesn't fill her shoes yet, but who can complement the team.
Thank you, Mrs. Vogel. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
I have 1 additional retirement. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the retirement of Joanne Arthurs, building secretary at Garvin Elementary School. That will be effective June 27th, 2014. Mrs. Arthurs is retiring from the Cumberland School Department after 20 years.
Pleasure of the committee. Motion by Mrs. Teal. Second by Mr. Fiorillo. Any further discussion? I'll just add that she'll be greatly missed at Garvin. She really was the backbone of the school and wonderful person. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thanks, Mrs.
Thank you. I actually have a resignation and a leave of absence that got added. I don't know, they were supposed to have been uploaded. I'm sorry if they're not in your documents, but I have a resignation. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the resignation of Colleen McMichael, school nurse teacher at Joseph J. McLaughlin, Cumberland Hill Elementary School, effective today, May 22nd, 2014. And I have a leave of absence. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the unpaid leave of absence of Tina LeMay, grade 2 teacher at Garvin Elementary School. That will be effective May 12th, 2014, and it will be through the end of the school year.
Pleasure of the committee. A motion by Mr. DeMonica, second by Mrs. Teal. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Does anyone have anything? Yes, Mr. Fiorello.
Last night, the Cumberland Special Education Advisory Committee met for the last time for the school year. We were happy to see a couple additional new faces, and we are hoping that going into next year, we're going to have more of a base of parents, including some new board members, and there'll be an upcoming Facebook page to try to reach out to more parents over the course of the summer.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Potter.
I just, on your resolution where it said that you didn't think it, or you may not have addressed the inequities, yeah, I'm just, it's not, I'm just unsure that it doesn't do that. I'm just struggling with the fact that those people who are in charge of perhaps finding that out don't want to make a stake, don't want to stake a claim on that. So, and I do want to remind the committee that it was a question that we asked, and it was ignored. It has been ignored to this point. And regardless of what your stance was on it, your stance should be that it shouldn't get ignored. And so as we do go through the process with the audit and try to see if that, if we can find a firm that could do that due diligence, just remember that it just was, it had been patently ignored. And there was another comment about 11th hour, and the same people that, or some of the people who complained that it was the last 11th hour, last minute, you know, set the tax rate on an off night, not a regularly scheduled town council meeting, with a 15-minute finance meeting right before it, on arguably the most important task that they do. So I just want to keep everybody, I know it's not going to attract much attention, but it was ignored, and it shouldn't be ignored, and yeah, it's not just by them. So I'm just hoping that as we move down the path, we don't take the same choice. Thanks.
Mr. Salvatore.
Madam Chair, let the record reflect that I'm in support of exactly what Mr. Motter said. I think the question should have been answered in one way or the other, and I am in agreement of a firm coming on board for an audit, no matter which way it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just wanted to recognize the high school for the art show that they had last week. It was spectacular. The auditorium was packed, full of folks there to listen to Clef and the chorus and the band, and I believe they took a recording of it. I don't know where that is yet, but it would be great to listen to it because the band played a song called Africa that is just amazing. And then the art that was displayed ranged from pastels to ceramics, and it was truly wonderful. And then the last thing I'll add is that the Cumberland High School lacrosse team did win their first game in the playoffs this evening, so I guess they move on to the next level. So congrats to them, and I wish I could have seen the game. Dr. Thornton, do we have executive session this evening?
No, we don't.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Teal and Mr. Mutter. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned at 8:46. Thank you, everyone.